Southside Stories. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited to have a quick catch up.
Good stuff. And we got the sound of London behind you, siren going by. Whereabouts in London are you?
Yeah, we're London Bridge. I was actually talking last night. It's surely has to be one of the best locations in London. It's the trains
Yeah,
in is perfect, but there's always flashing lights and sirens.
yeah. It's busy area. Great transport links, but very busy area.
Yeah,
But
it
it's
is.
very vibrant.
Getting more and more expensive though, so we've got
It
to keep an eye
is.
on that.
Yeah, got to keep the revenue coming in, eh?
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about you then and your job title and a bit about your company.
Yeah, so I started So Bold 2014. It was sort of born out of helping a few different companies and working in a more marketing capacity. So it wasn't sort of I'm going to go out and set up my business and do X, Y, Z. It was more of I'm providing a solution, helping people, and I love doing it. Um, so it started 2014, yeah, and now so we're 11 years in. We're a team of 21. Still trying to sort of kick on past that 20 people stage. And my role in the business is managing people and leading the business and growing it. But I also focus on the sales side, so I've got a good little role there.
And tell me briefly, and we're going to go into more detail, but just the elevator pitch, if you like. What is it that you do? What's the company do?
Yeah, so we design, build websites and platforms. Um, the more complex, the better for us. So we tend not to work on the more sort of small brochure sites. They're not really our bag. What we are looking for is the most complex solution that we can hopefully simplify and make it as straightforward as possible for the client, and educate them along the way so that they can then manage it and grow it and scale it. Yeah.
Good stuff. And how did you get into this game? I mean, if you got a background in technology or
Yeah, I mean, as I said,
yeah,
I kind of fell into it. Um, I was working as marketing consultant just at the point of the social media boom. So Twitter, for example, was going absolutely nuts, and I lived abroad in LA for 6 months, working predominantly using Twitter and Facebook, but kind of growth hacky. For small businesses, how can we try and have a presence and get some sales from Twitter? And then when I came back to the UK, a lot of other small companies were like, hang on a minute, you've got a skill that we need. We don't really understand it. It's a bit like AI at the moment. If you don't really understand it, you don't really know what's what, but you've got something that you can help us with. So can you help us? Of which I said yes. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't fulfilling though. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. Um, but along came a scenario where a couple of my current clients that I was working for said, we need a website. Do you know anyone that can help with the website? So I didn't. I went out there and ran a tender process for these guys. And it was at that point I realized a lot of the website agencies out there don't educate you at all on what you're getting. So there's blurred lines from the start and sort of over promise and under deliver. The client didn't really know enough about what they wanted, so there was confusion on their side as well. And I realized that talking to developers is pretty difficult, but I was very good at it, and I was very good at translating it back to the client as to what actually made sense for them to hear, rather than smoke and mirrors and all of that. So I did a few websites, just being that middle person between client and supplier, and I realized that I could just do it myself and do it better. So I hired a junior developer. It wasn't that sort of big moment of I'm starting a business. It was very much more like I'm being a freelancer, and why don't I just have a developer working for me? And we did that, and then I realized actually I can scale this quite quickly. And then it grew, and more people wanted a website, saw visual results of other people's websites, and it went like wildfire.
great. Um, Tell me a little bit about the clients then. So maybe we'll start with what is the typical problem now that you see clients come to you with?
It it's always the problem is always about I've been burnt by previous web development agencies, um, it's either costing too much or we've got something that's not scalable. And current clients will come to us because they can trust us, and trust is what underpins everything. Money comes, like cost of sales, revenue coming in comes separate to the trust. If the client can trust us and trust me and the people within our team to be able to deliver something for them, then they are happy to invest in solutions with us. Um, so the previous clients were a lot smaller agencies. They're actually B2B agencies, but we'll say small healthcare firms or very small finance practices or things like that. And a big challenge of ours has been moving away from those smaller clients who have a typical brochure site and moving into the market where we're living in now, which is working with more enterprise sized businesses, again, in those similar B2B areas. So, finance, healthcare, real estate, um, and again, building solutions for them that they can grow with and then scale and know that their business, no one's business is the same last year as it is this year, despite what you say. So, you need to have a website that can grow and reflect that. And where a lot of other web dev agencies focus is going, oh, we will give you a website and then we will make money off you off the back of that website. We look, and any small change you're going to have to pay for, we look at it completely differently. Whereas we would say, if you want a website, we want to give you a website that you can manage, grow, and scale with internally. Because the more you grow and scale internally, the more you're going to lean on us for much more complex features, which is where we want to be. What the team want to be working on. So that's the sort of problem that we are trying to solve, and it's it's very funny because I believe that web development agencies and web agencies, and to an extent, wider marketing agencies have this stigma, the same stigma that recruitment agencies have. You know, you've been stung by a recruitment agency, and you're instantly going to dismiss them, and you're not interested in them. And that's happened so much where agencies charge absolutely no money for something. They deliver a terrible end product, and the client is really really annoyed about it. And so then they go to the next agency and they're like, I'm not going to spend more money on this because I've already been burnt once. And then the cycle goes on and on and on. As a result of it, agencies have a really really bad name. And what my mission is to try and change that. To try and change that. Certainly, obviously, towards Sobold, but hopefully try and change the perception of agencies in my space that are doing a good job to be championed. Yeah, I
And
mean, I was
yeah,
going to ask you, Matt, how has your experience throughout your career been with web dev design agencies? The end result, has it been, does it go into that bracket of, have didn't spend much money and had a pretty shit experience, or spent money and got a good experience, or middle par sort of thing?
it's a great question actually. And if I cast my mind back to some pretty big corporations that I've worked with over the years, the experiences range from a lot of internal dev resource and being
Yeah,
able to do it in house, with occasional bits that are outsourced
yeah,
for more complex tasks. Um, the last project I'm thinking of, which was a bit mixed, was re-architecting the entire information architecture, the content management system front end,
mm,
and a load of back end services
yeah,
for a major insurer.
nice.
And that was fiendishly complicated. And in the early days, we made a couple of missteps, perhaps with, to be honest, it wasn't really the agency's fault.
Yeah,
Um, Sometimes on these very large corporate projects, there are so many internal stakeholders
yeah,
you've got to keep across the overall mission of what you're doing, and then there are the smaller dependencies
yeah,
internally. Because especially if you've got systems like insurance, they have big insurance systems, and then we had to build microservices from those systems to plug into a web front end so you could get a
yeah, yeah,
quote. It
yeah,
was hellish.
yeah,
I think we all went sort of grey. I think the secret from a company perspective is to start off with a very clear brief and a very clear objective of
Yeah.
what you're trying to achieve
Yeah.
for, and split into phases as well,
Yeah.
and don't. It's the classic sort of MVP, iterate, learn,
Yeah.
iterate, repeat sort of thing. And I think a lot of companies go headlong into trying doing everything, and the scope is huge. It takes
Yeah.
ages to deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
By the time you've delivered it, half the
It's
people have
moved on.
moved on, or the strategy's changed, or there's been a budget change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. We have that the whole time as well, um, and big project take 6 to 12 months. They are
Yeah,
big pieces of work, and also uh, a struggle we always have is we've mapped out the project duration, and our PMs try and keep on top of it, but 99% of the time it's internal, so the clients, stakeholders trying to get meetings to get things signed off and approved, and they miss them. And it's very difficult for us to try and be flexible to then deliver to that deadline when all of the clients' deadlines are being missed, and you are then held accountable to it. But I mean, on the flip side to that, how I would say that we deal with it is, I always say to the PMs, if the client is messaging you asking you a question, you haven't updated them. So there, you can never share over too many updates, too much information. So that client, whether it be a product manager or owner on their side or a PM, um, if they don't have that information, then we aren't doing our job. So if you've got their information, they're going to be happy, and delays are fine. They are inevitable if it's managed in the right way. And I think that kind of part underpins everything we do from a client side, but also internally. Internally, mistakes happen. How can we create the best environment for people in here to be able to learn from those mistakes and grow, to then know that on the next project they will deliver a better solution? And even more mistakes might happen, but mistakes are fine. I make
yeah,
mistakes the whole time, and so that's what a key thing that I try and instill here, that as long as you're learning and you're open to learn and not being against feedback that is, hey, you haven't done this in the right way, then you can get better.
yeah. And I guess one mistake is a learning experience, right? But multiple mistakes on the same thing, not so good. So
Yeah,
making
exactly.
sure you've got that feedback loop or into your systems and
Yeah,
processes. How do you continually evolve and get better?
exactly. And it's hard, and I yeah, it's really hard. But again, it's that transparency. If you were as transparent along the whole way with client and internally, then you would have thought that you putting the right foot forward into having uh, a good solution and a good period of time.
Well, give us a sense then of a couple of recent projects that just illustrate the scope of what you can do for a client.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier about re-architecture. That is a key one where we would move over big sites from Sitecore or Drupal or Magento, and we move them onto. We use WordPress as a platform.
Uh-huh.
Um, Again, part of our challenge with using WordPress is that it has connotations of being a simple blogging platform. And what we're saying is, no, we can take it to the enterprise level. And actually, if you do take it to the enterprise level, you're getting a content management system that is entirely flexible and scalable for you. But you've got to trust us that you can do it. So again, it's that trust part. Um, but a lot of our sort of key success stories comes in building, say, subscription platforms for clients, whereby they need to make continuous improvements to that subscription platform because they need to keep it as sticky as possible for for the users. So we might be doing design work on a monthly basis, development work on a monthly basis, SEO work on a monthly basis, all tied in. And that might be, 20, 30 days a month. It might be 40 days a month. So that is us essentially acting as their own development team. And they can blame us, they can point the finger at us if they want to, because they a lot of the time they want to have that it's not their own issue. They can have a go at us, and that's totally fine because of the nature of our relationship with them. They love us, we love them, and we're all sharing the same goal as to what we want to do with their site. So lots of different types of projects, and then we also have the more standard end-to-end sites, which there will always be some sort of integration, complex integration, or some sort of booking functionality that needs to be incorporated because that's where our sweet spot is.
just going back to sort of CMS and platforms. I
Yeah,
mean, WordPress, of course, does power some
yeah,
very big global sites.
yeah,
Yeah, it's robust, it's scalable, it's been around for a while. But do you ever get clients that, I mean, the last two places I've worked, we've used Webflow.
yeah.
Do you ever get clients that are pushing for something other than WordPress?
Yeah, we do, but it's not right for us. We want to be the experts in a certain platform. And the
Uh-huh.
other thing is, I would never slag off another platform because they all have their uses, and someone could rip apart WordPress. I could, by the same turn, rip apart Webflow. But actually, for many companies, Webflow is the optimum solution for them. And a lot of the time, it's how you are building within these platforms. So the platform is one thing, but it's the approach you take within that which determines how scalable or how flexible it is. Because I could equally look at lots of WordPress sites for bigger businesses and say it's been built in a terrible way and they're not going to be able to scale, blah blah blah. But that's the part of it. So there's the education piece on the content management system, but there's the reality of how you're going to approach it for their needs. And there is also a case whereby the client might say they don't need to update any content. They don't need a content management system. They don't want the bloat of a WordPress in there, so they just want to do it in this certain approach, and that's totally fine for us as well. It almost like the dating game,
Yeah,
if it's not quite the right fit, we wish them all the best. They wish us the best, and it's fine.
yeah. Um, just going back to subscriptions
Mm,
or any, in fact, any kind of e-commerce, because you do e-commerce
yeah,
plays as well. How do you bring best practice? I'm thinking about UI, UX, the
yeah,
ability for a web to take traffic, basically convert it into a sale.
yeah,
How do you sort of keep across optimizing a site, best practice, educating the client
yeah.
who might they might have their own fixed views. I guess they often do, right? But
Yeah, and
how
that,
do you
that
approach it?
again is another big challenge because you can have all of the know-how or knowledge in a certain sector of UI or well, actually it'd be more user experience side of things. But if the client has a want for a product page to look in a certain way, then there's the education piece, and ultimately, if everything is underpinned by customer obsession and client obsession from our side, then ultimately it's a frank conversation of we would recommend this, we totally get your recommendation of this, how about we look at this angle, and there's compromise from both ways. Equally, it's also knowing when to sort of sit back and go, right, the client wants it this way, we've got to respect what they want, and we've said our piece, so let's go and do that. um, like what you said earlier, so our design phase is split up into multiple different phases, all of it entirely underpinned by the research side of things. So do a bulk of research at the start. That's looking into competitors, target audience, industry landscape, looking at your current branding so that we get an idea as to how the UI might want to go in which direction. Then we would go into the wireframe stage. It's a waterfall model, so we wouldn't go into the next stage until it's approved, but we'd go wireframes. So wireframing out the full site. Then once that's approved and the client can clearly see the different customer journeys going down there, then we have this layer called a mood board, which actually you can see behind me. So that is, we're essentially taking your brand assets and challenging them and showing them in a few different ways that best appeal to your target audience. And there is no set direction there. Again, like other competitors of ours, we don't say you've got X amount of revisions on it in this scope. We want to be free because it, we might get it in one and we might get it in 10, but ultimately we have to get to what the client wants, otherwise it's pointless. um, and so we determine the visual direction of the site. So that's like, how are the different color palettes interacting with one another? Are we using icons? How is imagery used? What's the um, accessibility standards that these colors are having to follow? Um, so you've got the wireframe signed off, and when you've got the mood board signed off, then the UI stage is fairly straightforward because you're applying the mood boards, which are approved, onto the wireframes, which are approved. The client's not sort of shocked at any part of that process. So again, I would say it's just keeping the client as informed as possible and being as transparent as possible as the direction and why.
Let's zoom out of web for 1 minute and just talk about perhaps the bigger picture of consumers or businesses engaging with a business through a digital channel.
Yeah,
And somebody said to me the other day, it might have been you, Will, actually, but somebody said to me recently that they've started to notice that traffic from Google, in their particular case, may have started to be impacted by Google's implementation, for example, of Gemini
yeah, yeah,
on the SERP page,
yeah,
which is kind of answering questions. And they were dabbling with this before. You could go and ask for a movie listing, and you'd get it on the page rather than going to the site.
yeah, yeah,
But AI may be accelerating that. And then of course you've got a completely alternate channel,
yeah,
which is going direct through Chat GPT
yeah,
or another.
yeah.
How do you think about this and the impact to your business?
Yeah, it's massive, but massive in an awesome way, and we're not scared of it. And because I mean, a year ago, maybe slightly longer, but a year ago, we were, you know, there were multiple articles saying developers' jobs are at risk. You know, graphic designers are at risk, and
Mm,
UX, UI designers are at risk. But actually, AI is enabling us to do so much more at a faster rate, which is great. Um, don't get me wrong, we have only scratched the surface of it, but we're using it probably 20% of the day. It's being used by everyone, people in operations, people in designing, people developing, and there does need to be a level of regulation for sure. Um, but it's enabling us to do faster work, which in turn and which in turn brings costs down for clients and brings delivery time down for clients as well. And and also you've got to remember we've got a team of developers who are absolutely obsessed with this stuff.
yeah.
So it makes their life even more enjoyable because they're living in yeah in this stuff.
Do you think you'll start to bolt on because, as you said earlier, you've been successful because you've focused.
Yeah,
We do WordPress, we scale sites,
yeah,
we have this robust process. With AI, for example, the client's coming to you and asking for things like AI powered
yeah,
chatbots.
yeah.
Is that may not
Yeah.
even touch WordPress?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the
Or
time,
yeah,
hilariously, is that there's this AI buzzword, and clients might come to us and say, the most common one is AI generated search. So you come onto our website and you can search something within the website and it spits out the results that, is relevant to what they've searched. A lot of the time, what they actually, if you really nail down to what they want, it doesn't even need AI. It's just the AI part is exciting them, but actually and again it's that education piece where we can say, listen, we can do this with AI. It's probably going to cost a hell of a lot more than what you're actually expecting it to, but you can get the end product by actually just some smart search features. And so I feel like, but I definitely see that it's happening more and more and more. Probably monthly, and it's kind of a bit like that whole at the start of my journey where I was saying with social media and Twitter, it was like, these guys doing using Twitter and Facebook and stuff for their business, so we must do it. It's kind of gone full circle when it's like, hey, I don't really know what AI is, but can you incorporate it into
yeah,
our website because our competitors doing it? Something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Yes, I'm sure that there's a shiny new object syndrome
Yeah,
definitely at
exactly.
play there, isn't there? Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's switch tack a little bit, Will. Let's talk
Yeah.
about your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your perhaps recent growth,
Yeah.
perhaps what your ambition is for 2025.
Yeah. We've had the fortune of we've never taken on any outside investment. We've been profitable since day one. So in many ways, must be doing something right. Um,
Yeah,
but more recently, I would say over the last 3 years, we've had really good growth, which has repelled what the market is doing. And I think that a lot of that comes back to that customer obsession. Um, I'll be, and I'll get told by so many people not to be, but I am the last line of defense before work goes to clients, and I pick things up, and we can't have clients picking things up because in a marketplace whereby it's so difficult at the moment, you can't afford for a client to be unhappy with work or even
Mm,
neutral about work. They have to be happy about work. So we've done 35% growth year on year for the last 3 years.
mm. Wow, that's very
Um,
good. Yeah.
we've grown the team up to, yeah, as I said, 20, I think 21 people. We're still growing. There's obviously big challenges there on the growth side of things and not wanting to grow too quickly. And I mean, funnily enough, our growth in the last year has come predominantly from current clients as opposed to new clients. And I heard of it, 5 or 6 agencies in the last 6 months that have gone bust, who are very good agencies as well. And we've even found it in our own pitches to new people, new business opportunities. We're getting just undercut completely, and it's by, I guess, other agencies that are clinging on to survival. But they might come in a third of the price, and then you've got the client who's like, well, I can't do anything. I had a really good meeting with you. I know you guys will be able to do a good job, but we just don't have the budget. Which again is fine. It's fine because I know I'm going to see them in 12 months' time, and they're going to say we've had a shit experience and we need your help to get us out of this mess. Um, but I do think that our growth has been 100% down to client and customer obsession, where other agencies have slipped off the boil.
When you say it's difficult out there, what's the primary difficulty? Is it competition and price?
Money, yeah,
Yeah,
cost, yeah.
yeah,
Um, every single one, every single new business deal. And typically our growth has been from referral business. So it's been, we've done an awesome website for you, you've had an amazing experience, you've recommended us on. We probably would have like a 95% success rate on that because we all love referrals, right? And even those are, I'm having brilliant meetings, brilliant pitches, brilliant proposals, but it's just, we just got no chance. And I understand it from their point of view as well, because they don't have any money to
yeah,
play with. So,
yeah.
but hopefully this year, I've, since January and February already, there's been a uptick in new business already. And so if we can keep growing with new business as well as current clients, then hopefully should be on for another big year of growth and get over that 2 million revenue mark, which is where we want to get to.
Fantastic. Love that. Is your net profit, is that growing at the same rate? How do you think about
Yeah,
that? Or are your costs going up? What does that look like?
definitely a tougher year last year. We keep a good lid on it. Definitely tougher last year. We've been investing in lots of different things, but mainly it's people, and making
Yeah,
sure we're investing in the right people to enable the next stage of growth. Because again, we get lots of different clients, and when we move into the bigger playing field of more enterprise businesses, then there's naturally going to need to be a churn of staff as well, and get new, better people that can help us. So there's definitely been a little bit of cost there. We've also set up a Bulgaria office, which is incredibly exciting, um, where we've got a team out there now as well helping us. So that's taken up a lot of my time over the last 6 months. Hopefully, the plan is for that is that can bring down costs for the end client as well. So it's a win-win for everyone, and the talent over there has been unbelievable. So we're chuffed about that.
let's stick with team then. Actually,
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about. Uh, People have very different views about this, but work. Let's start with working from home versus
Yeah.
office. What's your thoughts on that? And does it differ to your staff?
What's my thoughts on this? This will polarize people, but I think I'm big on working from the office, and I think as the whole world is starting to realize working from the office is needed for the economy to grow. And I know that will upset a lot of people, but that's what I believe. We do a hybrid, so we do 3 in the office and 2 from home. My staff, I'd probably say the leaders, so the people at the top, would all generally be in the office the whole time. And I think the staff like the flexibility, um, but I'm still big on it. I just think that you can't get anything done when you're having to, and even myself, when I'm having to work from home for various different reasons, if I'm wanting to chat to my technical director about something, I don't want to have to organize a Skype call or a Zoom call or whatever. I want to be able to
Yeah.
look at him to my right hand side and say something in passing, or I want to walk past one of our designers' desks and have a look at what they're doing and give some feedback, which saves them half a day, which you're not going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
I see it both ways. I do, and I don't know what the because there's a lot of different opinions on the impact
Yeah,
of productivity, for example. Um, I mean, I work from home all the time now, and my last job, the days that I was in the office, exactly as you say, the frictionless
mm,
communication saves so much time. What really drives me at the wall is, yeah, making an appointment to talk to somebody
yeah,
is a real time suck.
yeah,
And I think it's very hard for new starters to actually get into the culture of the business, make the connections.
yeah. But we do on
It,
when you're
yeah,
on probation, you're in the office full time.
that's.
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, because those people need to be supported, get to know people quickly.
Mhm.
It's interesting that observing my wife actually. They do 2 days at
Yeah,
home. This wouldn't work for a whole company, but their team, they have basically an open team Microsoft Teams channel open all day
yeah. I like that.
with everybody on it, and it's just
Yeah,
instant. It's interesting listening to them because it's almost kind of like a
yeah, you get the sort of
natural
background
conversation.
noise and yeah, I agree. I've got a good mate of mine is works in shipping and he does he had the same thing. Like he doesn't work from home, but when he does, he has an iPad set up with the Microsoft Teams on it, so he can unmute himself and speak if he needs to or whatever. Um, it's funny though because what I don't think is I don't think when you're working from home you're not working, and I think that's a big misconception.
Mm,
My wife works at Amazon, and when she there's been a few times where I've worked from home with her, and we haven't sort of spoken to each other, looked at each other, left our desks since 8 o'clock, not even for a lunch break. And so you end up getting glued to your desk, which is no good as well. At least in the office, you've got work related distractions. And my wife, when she goes into the offices at Amazon, she ends up coming back being like, I've done absolutely no work because I've just been chatting to people and all of that. So I just think it's just for the environment, it's a lot healthier in the office when you're interacting and you're visually seeing and hearing what is being worked on. Because the amount of stuff you pick up is just invaluable.
yeah, there's something also in that psychological um, demarcation between work and home when
Yeah.
you have to go out of the building, go somewhere, get on the tube, go. You know that decompression time I think is very important because otherwise, just working from home it just bleeds into the weekends and the evenings and all the rest of it. Uh,
Yeah.
Last question on team.
Yeah.
How do you manage the? See, you talked about Bulgaria.
Yeah.
How do you manage to keep culture and team going across two different sites?
It's difficult. Slack at the moment, but we will be flying the Bulgaria team over for quarterly socials with the team. They are always paired up with UK people on projects,
Mm,
which is great because
mm,
then they are, in a pod of two or in a pod of three, they are forced to interact with the team. But more importantly, and the thing that underpins why we managed to start the Bulgaria offices because we've got a front end developer who's been with us for 5 years, and she is an awesome person, and she is such a big culture carrier of So Bold. She ended up moving back to Bulgaria, and we kept her on against my sort of work from home anguishes and all of that. We sort of created a separate policy for her because she had earned it, and off the back of that, she is sort of taking a lead in terms of cultural side of things in Bulgaria. So, and she obviously knows very well all the UK lot as well. So she's the glue that holds it all together. So I'd say she's the reason.
great, good stuff. Last question.
Yeah.
Will, tell me about a leader who has influenced you. It could be somebody from earlier in your career, a mentor, even a famous person, a member of family, but somebody that sort of influenced you, your leadership style, or the way you manage your business.
Yeah, I knew that this is a hard one. This is a really hard one because I can't actually think of anyone particular that genuinely has influenced me. But what I would say is a characteristic of consistency is something that has influenced me. And there are multiple people that have shown that. You could say someone from a football perspective as Cristiano Ronaldo, or someone from a rugby perspective as Johnny Wilkinson. Sport is obviously the easiest thing for me to draw on, but people at the top of their game have always shown that consistency always wins, and that's something that I live my life on. Whatever, I always make sure I'm consistently showing up, and whether that be going to the gym or being in the office early or doing whatever, it's what works for me. So I would say, yeah, that as a value, and then anyone
Yeah.
from a sporting perspective on that side. How about
That's
you?
great. I would say generally people from early in my career. I remember when I was quite junior, I was working in Bristol for a long time. I moved up to London, and it was a kind of big step up. And there are all these kind of London characters, they're all a bit more
Yeah.
sophisticated and all this, and they had all the jargon and everything. And there was a guy called Simon, and they all went away on some jolly, the management level above me, and I was sort of left in the office, for the first time, kind of semi in charge, and his words were own, decide, do.
Mm,
Um, you know,
love that.
own an issue, own a customer issue, whatever it is that comes
I
in,
love that.
deal with it, and get it done, make a decision and get things done, and that sort of stuck with me. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I like that. Those sort of, a lot of people do podcasts about them now, and but I do love that stuff. That side of things. It's so true. That's a simple thing. It's a simple motto to live
yeah,
by. It's all of my, all of my key things that I think have attributed to where I've got to, are the most simple things that anyone can do. Show up on time, make sure you get something done, completed, reply to emails quickly. All of those things, anyone can do that, and that's what I find so bewildering when other people don't do that, because I'm like, there's just a simple way of life.
yeah. But sometimes people need a bit of coaching on that,
Yeah, they
don't they?
do.
That
Yeah.
that you can lead by example, and sometimes people will emulate your behaviour.
Mm,
Sometimes they just need a little bit more than that,
yeah.
a bit more guidance and coaching.
Mm,
Anyway, on that note,
yeah.
Will, it's
Well,
been a
nothing with a
pleasure.
lot to think about after saying that. I'm thinking about
Well, maybe we'll carry on a conversation around London Bridge. But Will, for now, thank you so much for your time. Wishing you every success. It sounds like you're going to storm it in 2025. Looking forward to hearing about another 30% growth
that.
this
Yeah.
coming
Cheers,
year.
Matt. Well, hopefully more. Hopefully we'll do way more than that. But yeah, thanks very much for having me, and always good to chat.
Thank you.